Second and Two podcast. We took a short intermission and we're ready to continue on because it's draft season and we're grinding, baby. We're taking 2 episodes in a day. We're crushing it right now. We've got the interior D line. We've talked edge, so we've kind of talked at least outside D line, linebacker ish players. We're now going to talk true D linemen, guys who are ranging from that like 0 to a 5 technique. And there's some good ones. There's some good ones at the top. As a group overall, it falls off dramatically, dude. Dramatically. Like, I'm talking the top 4 really good players. After that, poof, it is slim pickings. It was really hard to find a guy who I liked as my 5th best player in this group in terms of, and that's no disrespect to some of the other guys in this draft. It's just the talent level isn't quite as high in this group as a whole as some of the other groups. It's definitely not as deep. You have some really good players at the top of this group, but as I said, it kind of falls off. I think you're going to see an early run on D lineman in the draft because of this. You know, in the first round, I think you'll see probably at least 3 drafted, and then I could see the 4th one drafted at kind of the top of the 2nd round, somewhere in there, and then probably not drafting D lineman again until about the end of the 3rd, early 4th round. Would just be my guess. But because I do think there's a pretty stark drop off after those top 4, in my opinion. You know, other people may see it differently, but that's just watching the film. That's how I saw it. So I'll stop talking and we'll get to this group of D linemen. Joe, who do we have first?
Oh, the first guy we are looking at is gonna be. Hold on, let's pull up this. We're looking at Jalen Carter, I believe, out of Georgia. No, we're not. We're looking at Calijah Kancey out of Pittsburgh.
Oh, there we go. I mean, if I can get my technical difficulty.
Well, it's funny because
difficulties.
I normally pull it up on mine so I could see it, right? So I could actually look like I'm looking at the camera half the time. But then you also have it over here. So sometimes, like if my mic's in the way, I'll just look this way and read it that way.
There we go. Yeah. We're here now. We've made it. Calijah Kancey.
Yeah, first guy we're taking a look at, Calijah Kancey out of Pittsburgh. He sits at 6'1", 281, played for 3 years, played all 12 games, so 36 games in that span. 16 sacks. He had 44 tackles for loss. Ooh, the pressure rate's back. 11%.
Pressure rate.
The missed tackle percentage at 9%, and he had 98 total tackles in those 3 games.
Calijah Kancey, number 1. Talked about ball player names before. Ball player name, Calijah Kancey. Love his name. He is a pretty good player. Should be drafted in the 1st round, I'm going to say. Go out on the limb here and say he's a 1st round pick. From the standpoint of just watching him, I'm like, okay, super quick. And he's really quick, he's explosive, and he has these great hands, right? Yeah, and he plays at Pittsburgh, a little bit undersized. So everyone's trying to talk about him as Aaron Donald. And I'm just Aaron Donald, I just want to say this at the top. Aaron Donald is like the greatest defensive tackle who has ever played football. So let's not do this to Calijah Kancey and compare him to Aaron Donald, please. Let's not do that. But he, in his own right, is a great player, which is why we should not compare him to Aaron Donald. But because he's his own player and he's a really, really good player. So number 1, he is super quick, like cat quick off the line of scrimmage. Shout out to Coach Hales. He used to say that all the time, cat quick. He's cat quick off the line of scrimmage. Times his get off really well. Great lateral movement to get around blockers. He uses that quickness to beat zone blockers and in his pass rush alike. You see, he's just very disruptive because of this quickness. So that's the first thing that we'll look at is just him disrupting plays with his quickness. Here he is right here at the 3 tech, or it's either 3 or 2. I can't tell. Yeah, it's the 3 tech right here.
3, yeah.
At Tennessee. poof. You see how he just, oh my gosh, he's
Yeah.
so quick.
Well, you
He's
can see it there
so,
too. You talked about his hands. For me, I wrote down he has good hands / his swim move. You'll see it right here on the backside for sure.
yeah,
It just gets that punch and whoop.
poof.
Yeah, look at that thing.
Yeah, he's so quick. Here he is again inside in the 3 technique. Boom, he has that little, like, jump move. Kinda reminds me of, Leonard Floyd used to do this with the Rams a lot, that little, like, jump swim, and
Oh,
to get through, it's nasty, and just bull rushes
and
the running
yeah,
back at
poor
the
running back.
end, pushes him into the quarterback's lap. The guy was not ready. Alright, here he is, right here at the nose, gets across the guard's face, boom, comes in for the late half sack.
Yeah.
Nasty. Just so quick, man. He's so hard to keep track of. Here he is. Don't pay attention to that yellow circle. We're looking
That
at
is
the
not
guy
him.
at the 0.
Yeah.
Boom. Give him that little shimmy. Haha. Uses great hands. Boom. Ends up as part of the sack there. All right. Here he is again at that 0 over the center. Gets another sack. Just again, he's too quick for centers, dude. He's a little undersized, but he's so quick. And that's where I do get the undersized, quick, great hands, played at Pitt, like a lot of similarities to Aaron Donald. Again, I don't want to compare him to Aaron Donald because I just don't think that's fair. But man, is he quick. He had, in terms of like his explosiveness, because that's my next strength for him,
Oh.
he had the fastest 40 time recorded at the combine for a D lineman since 2003, 4.67. Aaron Donald ran 4.68 at his combine. Kancey was faster, 4.67. Joe, you want to, this might be a good time for his other combine numbers since we're here.
I wish I had him, but he only did the 40. He had a 164 on his 10-yard split. That's the only other.
That's 1.64. Because think
Yeah.
about all the offensive linemen we're talking about.
They
Oh,
were all like
1.9.
1.7s or yeah.
Yeah, this guy's a 1.64. Dirty, bro. He's so quick. He's great reaction time, ability to use his explosion to respond to blocks in real time. I mean, he's an explosive athlete. So here you go, explosiveness. This is him about to put his hand in the dirt. He's playing in a 4-eye, just inside shade of the tackle. Watch how he responds to screen and explodes out. So he reads screen and then just bursts out and is athletic enough to go make that play on a running back. Oh, great Selly too.
You love that one.
Love the Selly. Watch him. Here we go. Get it up close and personal. Just nasty. All right. Here he is again inside. Now he's in a 3 technique. Stems to a 1. Boom. Again, just explosive. Goes and makes the tackle for loss. Very disruptive. All right. This is another one right here inside the 3 technique. Sack. He's an explosive athlete who's extremely quick. And then the last thing is that he has these great hands. We've already talked about it a little bit here, but the reason he draws comparisons to Aaron Donald, I think, is not just the quickness. It's just like Aaron Donald's one of the greatest D linemen of all time because of he just uses his hands so well. Kalijah Kancey is very developed for being a college player with being able to understand leverage, balance, technique with his hands. Like he understands when to swipe, where to swipe, how to swipe, like when to use that little swim move, when to jump off the ground and knock 2-hand knock away, like how to long arm and then use that arm, that elbow as leverage. I mean, all those things that
Yeah.
you see the best pass rushers do. He's doing a lot of those things already. Again, here he is in a 2. Here's the other part of it. We've seen him in a 0, a 2, a 3, a 4-eye. Like this guy can go all over the place on the defensive line. Here you go. Great hands. This is a great look against Georgia Tech. Look at his hands. Pow. Swims over the top. Doesn't leave himself exposed. He gets the sack. Nasty. It's a great look at how he uses those hands. Another great Selly.
That was a good one. He's being jiggy.
Here he is right here. Stems into a 1 technique. Beats the double team. Again, uses his hands, right? He's able to get skinny, punch and press, get over the top, makes the play for a tackle for loss. I think you're going to get to see the behind angle. Here he is in a 2. Head up on the guard. or it was a 3. I'm sorry, 4. Head up on the tackle. Again, just great play. Very, very instinctual. Uses his hands very well. Understands when, where, how, all of that stuff. The leverage, the balance, the technique. He's a little undersized, being 6'1", 280, but he has the athleticism, technique, consistent motor to be a high-level starting defensive tackle in the NFL. Again, not ready to call him the next Aaron Donald, but think he can be a legitimate starter, very good player. Worthy of obviously a first-round pick. I think the guy who I see when I watch him was Ed Oliver. You remember Ed Oliver coming out of Houston?
Oh, bro, wish I could. That's one thing though I'll mention with all these dudes. I couldn't draw any comparisons except for one dude whose name I didn't even remember. I was like, oh, that one dude from the Packers one year. That guy kind of looks like me, and that's about it. I had that once.
That's you're probably thinking of Kenny Clark from the Packers if you're thinking of somebody.
It was he was like number 90.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll get research on that.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
number 90 from the Packers ever. We'll go through the names. We'll figure it out. So this is Ed Oliver, drafted in the first round out of Houston a few years ago with the Bills. Here he is playing in a one technique over the center, but you'll see it very similar in terms of the quickness, the hands. Bow. High motor, getting to the quarterback. Love that from Ed Oliver. Here he is again against the Dolphins. Again, I think the thing that I saw was just like they're very similar in terms of size, and then just that high motor, quickness, great hands, ability to rush the quarterback inside consistently. I think that's what made me think of them as very similar players. And again, Ed Oliver has not been necessarily dominant, but he's been a very, very good player in the NFL. He's not Aaron Donald, but he's a starter, and he's a really good player. And I think that's Kalijah Kancey right now. Based on what I've seen in mocks, he's kind of all over the place. He's risen in a lot of draft boards recently, just because people love. He ran that 4.67 40, so people were talking about him a lot from that standpoint. Seen him anywhere from the 5th overall pick to the Seahawks, which in my mind would be a little high, to anywhere at the back end of the first round at 29, which in my mind would be a little low. I think his landing spot should be somewhere between like 15 and 20. But the Seahawks, the Lions, the Eagles, the Saints are all teams that I've seen him mock to. I think the Saints would be a really fun team for him to go to, play inside next to Cam Jordan. Yeah, you like the Saints too.
Yeah, and just the Eagles. They would have an insane D line. But yeah, my first train of thought went to the Saints for sure.
It's so funny because the Eagles have those 2 first-round picks, so it just feels like. The Eagles could just be like, hey, you know what? We're going to build Georgia 2.0 and take like Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and just like pair those guys with Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean and just like build the Georgia defense in the NFL if they wanted to. It's the fun part about them having those 2 picks. But they could also be like, hey, we have Jordan Davis, and then we're also going to go get Kalijah Kancey and put them next to each other and just tear people up. Like have a huge run stuffing, like gap eating player, and then a smaller, quick, like just absolutely
beat you across
annoying kind of player like to play against just because he's so disruptive. Yeah, I think that would be fun pairing for sure. But I like the Saints. I'm kind of with you. I like the Saints. Just giving Cam Jordan another player to play with up on that front, Marcus Davenport. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I have a game written down, a standout game for here from. So we could get back to real stats now because they track those for D linemen. But yeah, so they played Virginia. They beat them 37-7. He had 3 sacks. There was 3 total tackles, all solo, and there were 3 sacks. Is what it came out.
Wow. Jeez. That's a ball game for a D lineman, no question. 3 sacks.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Who do we have next?
The next guy we're looking at is going to be Jalen Carter out of Georgia, as you were briefly talking about right now. He's 6'3", 314, played for 3 years. More games compared to normal 3-year stat we see. He's got 37, but that's because, they went back-to-back in the championship these past years. He's got 5 sacks during that time, 21 tackles for loss, 11% on that pressure rating, 11% missed tackles. That's tough. And 86 total tackles.
All right, so Jalen Carter, very interesting prospect from the standpoint of like, okay, all I've heard all college football season long and just after the college football season is like, he's the best guy in the draft. He's this unbelievable prospect for a D lineman. He's super disruptive. He's all of these things. So I'm going into it expecting that. Then I do his stats, and I'm like, his stats are average. Like he only has 21 tackles for loss and 5 sacks in 3 years.
Yeah.
Like that's not great. His pressure rate is only 11%. That's not great. 86 tackles, like it's not great. Oh, he misses 11% of his tackles. That's not great. Like just in general, I was kind of like, oh. So
Yeah,
then I was like,
it wasn't too eye-opening. It was like,
yeah. So
he's
his
just a guy.
stats, I was like, man, his stats are not indicative of like, oh my gosh, this is the best guy in the draft. So
Yeah.
then I went into his film kind of maybe people have overrated this guy. Well, then I watch his film and I'm like, oh, I get it. his film shows you like those stats are not necessarily indicative of like how good he was at Georgia. And then you start thinking
Yeah.
about it's like, well, he played with all these other great players. So okay, so he wasn't able to make as many plays as maybe he would have somewhere else. You could play all the different mind games with that and like
Yeah.
ask yourself all those questions. But in general, like his film, that film is pretty good. So first thing, when you look at a D lineman, there's this thing we call the 6-inch punch, and it's that like again your hands. You don't want to do like this huge wind up to like punch a guy right when you're playing O
Yeah.
line or D line, just because it takes too long. And people always talk about like low man wins. Partially true. Also, whoever gets their hands on you first probably wins, right? Like that's a big deal. Is who's getting their hands on who first. And so like that ability to be right here, that like 6-inch punch right there, from there to strike and lock out,
Yeah.
is such an important part of playing defensive line. Like to be here, strike an O lineman and lock your hands out where you can now steer him and have all this leverage to create space and beat a block. That Jalen Carter does that about as well as anybody I've seen on film. Like he is really good at that. So here you go. We're gonna let the film speak for itself. This is him playing LSU. He's in a little bit of he's a 3 technique right here against LSU. This is 4th and inches in the SEC championship. He's going to take this tackle, and that's what you call strike and lockout. He didn't even really get to lockout because he struck the guy so bad.
Yeah.
Like put him on
But you
his
could see the
butt.
extension when he pushes him over, though. I mean,
Oh, that is a powerful strike and lockout. Here he is against Tennessee. Two technique. Again, strike lockout, get over the top, make the play on the quarterback, sack fumble against Tennessee in that big game. I mean, that was the game that basically sent him to the playoff, winning that game. Again, the extension on the strike and lockout, being able to get to Hendon Hooker, create that fumble. So those are two, not just like, oh, great job technique wise, but two massive plays in games that they had to win to get to the college football playoff and win a national championship. He showed up in those big moments and made those plays. So his stats, okay, I wasn't wowed by him, but now on film, I'm seeing like, okay, this guy shows up though. In big moments, he shows up and he does exactly what you need him to do. And it's all technique, strike, lock out. I was very impressed by that. Next thing you notice, yes, upper body strength is insane. Like
yeah, I
one of the
have that
more
written down
impressive,
too.
yeah, right. One of the more impressive parts of his film is his ability to just move 300-pound men with like his arms. Like you'll see, sometimes he's not even. It doesn't even feel like his feet are under him, and he just like ragdoll rolls guys when they
Yeah.
try and anchor in the pocket and bull rush him, like or against his bull rush. He's just incredibly strong. Like you see it. All right, here you go. This is him against Kentucky this year. They're gonna run a little, I believe it's zone, and just see how you just kind of like, okay, again, this is the strike and lockout, but then the next part of it is just like getting off the block, using that upper body strength to just move guys. Again, here he is against LSU, and same thing, similar deal, just able to move guys and go make the play. TFL, right?
Yeah.
One of those 21 TFLs he had.
I
But
think
just you
it
see
was
that.
him. He had a play where he like sacked a quarterback and like he picked him up and was celebrating with him in
Oh
the
yeah,
air.
against LSU, like literally
Yeah.
had him and was like doing
Yeah.
this. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I do remember that play. You see the extension on the strike lockout here?
Yeah,
And
right
I know
there.
we're talking, and
That
then
was a
just
good
the upper
pause right
body
there.
strength to just like move the guy, and we'll try and get that one against LSU here too. Similar deal with the pause, but just he's so strong. It's crazy. Yeah,
Just
and
get
this
real
one
quick. He got a
he's
quick
already beat
strike.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got the strike lock and he beat it and goes and makes the football play TFL. I mean, yeah, he had a big game against LSU. So there you go. You see the strike, the lockout, the upper body strength to finish those plays after he's used great technique. And then finally, he has, for being a 315-pound dude, elite speed quickness combo. Like he's both fast up the field and quick off the ball, which is just rare for someone who's as big as he is. Like he's just as fast and quick as Kalijah Cansey, but add 40 pounds on him. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
35 pounds on him and add 2 inches and make him stronger. It's like, oh, crap. Like,
Oh,
you know what
it
I'm
goes
saying?
on
Like,
and on. Bigger, stronger,
yeah,
faster.
yeah, like he's as fast, but he's bigger and stronger than Cansey. And I'm talking about like how quick Cansey is and everything. Like that's Jalen Carter too. And it's just so rare for someone who is as big and as strong as he is to be such a quick, fast guy. He's just a rare athlete for the position to me,
Yeah, that's
which
for
is
sure.
why people have him. You know, a lot of people have him first overall on their board. So here you go, a little speed quickness. This against Georgia Tech this year. Just like the fact that they pull
Beat
away from
everyone.
him and he's not supposed to be able to make that play and he just does. It's just not fair. That play is literally designed because they're like, oh, the D lineman's too slow to go make this play, run it from the backside, and he does it. Like, look, the
Yeah, they
center is trying to block back on him, and is literally this guy's so fast up the field that he's literally behind already, just
yeah,
coming out of the stance. He just attaches himself to the pulling guard and makes the play.
yeah.
How many
That
D linemen do you know, true D linemen, get to just stand up in a 3 technique?
I thought the same thing when I saw that play.
And then watch. And okay, because if you coach football, every D lineman at some point is like, Coach, can I stand up?
Into
I
the dirt.
promise you. They all do. They all ask, like, Coach, can I stand up? And most of them are not good at it. Now watch him. This is the impressive part. He's actually good at it. Like he did something standing up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like how many 3 techniques do you know who can just legitimately stand up like that and pass rush on a guard and like boom and get around him? Like, dude, the guy wasn't even there. I mean, it was like that guy might as well have not been in the play. It was put him in concrete, dude. Put him on skates and pow, got by him. I mean, that's elite stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like there aren't there aren't many Jalen Carters that come out of a draft. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
he's one of the few D linemen that you can see having a huge impact on the game in both run and pass. He's strong enough to take on double teams. He's athletic enough to bend the corner and pass rusher, and pass rush. He's a day one starter, like anywhere he goes. I think my biggest questions with him are really more less athletic talent based and more like, all right, I watched a lot of his film. I do feel like he takes some plays off. I
uh-huh,
do feel like there were
yeah,
some plays where it was like, did he give the same effort on that play as he did on this play? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
There were a lot of chirps about like who he was as a person at Georgia.
yeah,
There's
that
been
makes sense.
obviously the stuff with him, the unfortunate event with one of his teammates and a player personnel person from Georgia dying in a car crash, and he was apparently involved in terms of like they were speeding. Obviously, with the driver of the other car, there was thoughts that it could have been a drunk driving accident. Like all of these things, right? These are all things that he's been connected to that are not good things. He's not going to serve any jail time or anything like that. I think I saw he's like just community service, and so like
Yeah,
in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if I want to call it character concerns like some people might, but there are concerns on my
yeah,
end. I do question like how committed to being the best possible player is he, which is hard when you don't know him and all you're seeing and hearing are things from the media. So I'm not jumping to conclusions and saying, well, he's just not committed to football. Like it's not what I'm saying.
yeah,
But I do have questions. And then there's a little bit of interesting, like he's only taking visits to top 10 teams, the teams with top 10
oh,
picks. which I
know
thought
that.
was a little interesting. I don't know if that's just a tactic by his agent to say like, hey, he's a top 10 pick. We're
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean? We're not giving the illusion that he could go anywhere outside the top 10. They're trying to prevent a slide. Maybe there's a lot baked into all this, right?
Yeah.
But I do have some questions, and none of it is concerning his
Can he
talent
play ball?
or athletic ability or ability to play football. Like most of it is just like, who is he as a person? Does he want to be great? Is he just enveloped in football? Is he going to be the kind of guy that comes in and just works? Like
Yeah.
if those things are true, if that's who he is, then he's probably the best prospect in the draft. If those things are not true, he could end up being, what you would call a bust.
Yeah.
And that's
That's for sure.
where the high ceiling, low floor for him with me right now that's where I'm looking at him. A guy who kind of had who's a similar build, similar kind of player, maybe had some questions coming out, but has been a very, very good NFL player, Quinnen Williams of the Jets. Show a little bit of his film right here. Quinnen Williams a couple years ago this was last year against the Packers, I believe. I believe this was last year when they went in Green Bay and
And beat
cheese,
him.
Sauce wore the cheese head and all that.
Yeah.
Quinnen Williams in a 3 technique right here. Watch him. Boom, quick, strong, makes the play, TFL, dirty player. He also had a fumble recovery for a touchdown in this game. That was pretty
Dang.
nice. He didn't cause the fumble, but he was able to scoop and score it. So just
Yeah.
that different kind of level of athlete who can impact run or pass and is pretty big. I think that's where they have some similarities, and I could see him being a similar kind of disruptive player to Quinnen Williams. There has been some thoughts he may slide. I don't know. We'll see. Right now, he could go as high as pick 3 to the Cardinals, and I've seen some projections where he goes as low as pick 14. So, Joe, what do you have on his combine numbers, or any update you can give on any of the other stuff going on with him?
Yeah. So you brought it up. I didn't want to bring it up, but you talked about like the whole accident incident, and
Yeah,
that is part of the
really
reason why
sad.
he doesn't have any combine numbers. He just chose not to go
Yeah.
with that being on hand. Um, One thing you didn't mention that I wrote down was that he just looks long. Like he makes a
Mhm.
bunch of plays where he's like diving, gets their ankle or whatever.
Things
That's
you
one thing
can't
I had
coach.
listed. And my standout game for him was them playing LSU. They won 50-30. He had 4 tackles. 2 of those were solo, a pass deflect, and a sack.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are no questions about who he is as a talent, man.
Yeah.
I think he is legit elite talent. I totally get why people have him first on their board.
Uh-huh.
So he's real. Cardinals, Seahawks, Falcons, Bears, potentially teams that I've seen linked to him. Anybody for you, Joey, that's standing out that you would really like to see him, see a team suit up for?
I would say at least out of these 4, make it easy on myself. I'd say probably the Seahawks, followed by
Mm,
the Cardinals.
mm,
Bears, I mean, we talked about them a lot during this whole thing. They just got the early pick, you know? So,
yeah,
I mean, I feel like they would rather work on their offense as opposed to defense. Granted, I'm not saying there's no need for a defensive player that they could look
yeah,
for, but it just makes more sense with their team going forward to build around Justin Fields.
yeah.
And the Falcons, I mean, I don't know much of their defense that they run, but I mean, as long as this guy goes early, I mean, it doesn't really matter where he goes, and he doesn't get the choice.
I think I think the Seahawks make a lot of sense for him. Pete Carroll has never been afraid to take a player that he sees as a high talent. Pete Carroll and John Snyder, anyway, never been
Yeah,
afraid to take a player that they see as a high talent with. I guess I don't want to call them character concerns because I just think it carries such a negative connotation.
yeah. Just
But I guess,
off-field issues or something, I don't know. I don't know if
yeah,
that
I,
sounds
I
any
mean,
better.
there's a lot going on with in terms of the drag racing and the whole accident. Like that's such a sad story. So I don't want to it's hard because you don't want to just gloss over it and be like, hey, the draft. because that is a
Yeah.
really sad story, and people died, and you don't want to like look lightly of that. I also don't want to like say, oh, it's Jalen Carter's fault either, because we really don't know like all the details. I mean,
Yeah,
based
for
on what
sure.
we've heard and seen, it feels like he has some like culpability, and there's like he was doing some stuff he shouldn't be doing, but also like he wasn't in the car that crashed and hit him or anything like that we know of. It's just a really weird. I don't know how to feel about it or what to say about it. So
Yeah.
I'm trying not to say too much while also giving like the people who died like their due. It's a hard one. But point being, I just don't think that that's something that would shy Pete Carroll away from taking him if he feels like this guy is this elite talent who could fit
Yeah.
in here, you know? So that wouldn't surprise me if they took him. And then the Falcons, I think the Falcons, maybe that would be a good thing for him staying in Georgia, staying close.
True.
Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe he needs to go somewhere else. I don't know. But I could see him being a very good player for the Falcons. And then the last team that's not on here that I think would make a lot of sense for him to go to would be the Lions. Just because I think Dan
Yeah.
Campbell has built such a great culture there that maybe that's exactly what Jalen Carter needs to be the best Jalen Carter. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And I
Yeah,
think
I
the
get
Lions can feel comfortable with what they've built on taking what might be a risk on a guy like Jalen Carter for the reward that you could possibly get. I mean, can you imagine Jalen Carter and Aiden
Aiden
Hutchinson
Hutchinson. Yeah.
on the same D line? Like
Nasty.
that's yeah, you're talking about like some real disruptive stuff right there. So we'll see. I would not mind seeing him in a Lions uniform though, just because I think it would be good for him personally.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but the Seahawks, I think it's gonna be tough to see him get past 5. I think if he's there, Seattle could very realistically take him, and which would be a bummer for the Rams because he's a really good player. So who we got next?
The next guy we're looking at, you might like him. I don't know. Mozzie
Mhm.
Smith out of Michigan. He's 6'3", 323. Played for 4 years. Got 33 games in that time. He had no sacks, 8 tackles for loss. Let's see, pressure ratings at 6%. You look at that. Doesn't miss tackles. Guy's on it. He's got
Yeah,
a missed tackle percentage of 4%. He's got 88 total tackles.
yeah. Mozzie Smith, the first Michigan man we've got to evaluate this year. Mozzie's a really good player. And over the course of 4 years, I think he grew as a player year in year out. Obviously, as someone who watched all Michigan games really closely, I can tell you his growth and development over the course of 4 years was pretty drastic. Um, it's interesting that statistically he didn't record a sack, but like I don't know. There's actually a couple plays on the film that we'll watch where it actually looks like he gets a sack. So I just don't know if they didn't credit him.
I was gonna say
Sometimes the
I
sack
have
stuff.
one sack out of what I have from his stats. So
Yeah, so I
yeah,
don't know if this is just again, I use 33rd team to get my
yeah,
stats for these guys. So because I really like them, but statistics sometimes, especially like some stuff like sacks can be
yeah,
kind of
because the half
objective
sacks and
because
everything. Yeah,
if 3 guys get in on a sack, you can only give it to 2, so you can give each guy a half sack, and sometimes it's like 2 guys are in on it, but one guy got there really first, and so you're giving him a full sack, and the other guy didn't get anything. So it's just kind of weird. But to me, it's the 0 sacks isn't indicative of like his presence as a pass rusher. He was
yeah,
pretty
no,
good
no,
pushing the pocket inside. I can't mention what's going on with Jalen Carter legally and not mention what happened with Mozzie Smith. In November he was charged with like carrying an illegal weapon. I don't know that teams are looking at this as a huge like character concern, but it could be something that comes up. Something I guess to keep an eye on. I don't know the actual current legal ramifications of that. I think from last I heard, it seemed like he was going to kind of steer clear of any like truly like legal action taken
no.
against him. So it seems like he might be okay there, but just something to think about in terms of his strengths, like lateral quickness. He does a really good job of slipping blocks by you. Like he does this little swipe thing with his hands, and he uses his lateral movement to sidestep like overzealous blockers, guys who are like, okay, this is a 323-pound guy. I got to really take him on. And he does
Yeah.
such a good job of being like, whoop, and just let guys go right by him. He uses a little swim move too, but
Yeah, I
his
have that
feet are
written
so
down.
quick that, like, sometimes you don't like guys swimming, like, especially in high school, try and tell
because
guys,
it
I
opens
don't.
up. It opens
Yeah,
up
you
the
expose yourself right here, but he's so quick with it and his feet are so quick, that little lateral sidestep he has, that he never exposes himself, so he actually gets away with doing it. So you'll see it here. This is him against Iowa from a 0, Russian from the nose. Boop. That little quick sidestep, swipe with the
yeah.
hands,
I
gets
guess
gets the
that kind of
pressure.
ties into what I had written down. So I talked about his swim move that I have written down, but also creating separation. You can see right there. He's got his arms extended, gets away from the blocker easily.
Yeah. Here he is against Maryland. That's that little sidestep I was talking
Yeah,
about, where he just swipes and just sidestep swipes a guy. He's good at that, man. TFL right there. Big time play.
Maryland.
Yeah, he's a good football player. Then he's got this nice combo of size and strength. Right? Takes on double teams, plugs holes in the interior of the defense. So here you go. This is some really good work by him in the college football playoff this last year against TCU. Taking on the double, plugging
Yeah,
a
and then
hole,
reaches over, gets the
causes the fumble, strips the ball out, gets the recovery, right? So he's got a forced fumble and a fumble reco. Big time football play after taking on the double team.
Also, quick note, I looked up who that Packers nose was. It was BJ Raji.
Ah,
That's who came to
Raji.
my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, Here we go against Penn State this year. Again, taking on the double. Great hands, great size and strength. Again, here he is, size and strength, plugging holes against TCU. He's just is really hard to move. Teams struggle to move him in the run game. So, um, I think Mozzie's got a really, really bright future as a guy who can just be a prototypical one technique. And
Yeah,
then the last thing is, for being a 325-pound guy, he has a really high motor. Like, makes a lot of plays on just like second effort type stuff.
yeah. I
Um,
had that written down too. Doesn't give up on
yeah,
the plays, always flowing of the ball.
yeah. TCU again, just keeps working, gets to the quarterback's arm on the pass rush, causes the incompletion.
Max Dugan.
Here he is against Ohio State. See how he works over the top? Like, initially he was beat on that block, but he kept working to get back over the top. I really like that. Here he is against Colorado State. Pass rush, right? Again, like, to me, that's a sack for him. So I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
how
for
he,
sure.
so like at least a half sack right there for him. So I don't know how he's credited with 0, but like, again, that one was not like this great initial move. He had to work, right, to
Yeah,
continue to push the pocket and eventually make that play. So I just think he plays with really high motor. The Ohio State play is probably the best of those, where he's initially reached, right, on zone, and then he still fights back over the top and makes the play on the other side. That's
yeah,
impressive stuff. I love that he makes those second efforts. I love that he just plays with a high motor. You don't see that as much from true like one technique guys like he is. I mean, he reminds me of another guy who was like a really disruptive pass rusher as a big man, and that's Dontari Poe. I don't know if you remember him from the Chiefs. And towards the end of his career, I believe he played for the Cowboys. But here's a couple of clips from him. High draft pick for the Chiefs. Here he is against this is his era, right? He's playing against the Texans with Brock Osweiler. So
yeah.
there you go. That lets you know kind of the time period he played in. But see that like quickness, lateral quickness that's similar to Mozzie,
It's a
right?
flag these days right
Boom, boom. Yeah, right. Gets
there.
the sack. So and that was that kind of like second effort deal. Like he kind of hit him on the counter and kept going. He got to
Yeah,
Russell Wilson on the pass rush. But I think similar kind of player to Dontari Poe, very disruptive, quick. That big man who's really quick on his feet. Um, I think did you have combine numbers for him?
yeah. So his combine numbers he only did the bench out there. He had
Okay,
34 reps, which is pretty impressive.
yeah,
Shows that
three
strength.
four reps, strong. Um, I think he should come in and be a prototypical one technique, playing over the center, He can slide to a 3, play over the guard a little bit at times, but he's a plugger.
Yeah,
Add some value with his pass rush, utilizing that lateral quickness. You could even play in the 0. You saw right over the center if you're more of a 3-man front type deal. But currently, he's like a back end of the first round, really more of a second round pick from what I've seen. Picks like 27 to 40. Seen Cowboys, Saints, Bills, Chiefs. That's really big deals for him. I mean, the Cowboys, for whatever that have been a really heavily mocked one for him. It seems like the Cowboys Cowboys tend to like Michigan players over the years. They, for whatever reason, have drafted a few Michigan players, so maybe there is a connection there that, maybe that's why the Cowboys really like him. But anything standing out to you, Joe? Maybe a team you want to see him go to, or what
I
kind
would
of?
say probably the Chiefs, honestly.
Mm,
Just build up their defense a little bit. Obviously, they have a great offense,
yeah,
so that's one thing I could see. Saints, we're gonna pick them probably every time. We already talked about them, so that makes sense. And out of the other two, I'd probably say just the Cowboys. I don't know. I feel like it makes sense. You talked about them having ties with Michigan already. Just
yeah,
it's already a little bit more chemistry, whether they were there a couple years ago or like down the road. I mean, they all still went to the same program.
yeah. I think with teams, I do like the Chiefs and Dontari Poe that tracks right.
Yeah,
Um, in terms of a team that's not up there that I wouldn't mind seeing him, go play with. I'm the Rams could use a little bit of depth behind Aaron Donald, and with knowing Aaron Donald could be on his way out soon,
that's true.
wouldn't be a bad idea to have a guy who could play next to him. A big fella. They lost Greg Gaines in the offseason, who was like really our big fella that played next to Donald. I wouldn't mind seeing Mozzie Smith playing next to Aaron Donald next year.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Keep 'em in
That
the
would be,
colors.
yeah, keep them in the blue and yellow. This is the maize and blue, but a little
Yeah.
bit of royal and soul, very similar color combo. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna say they're not on that list, but would not mind seeing that at all.
So yeah, the next guy we're gonna be looking at a Clemson kid, Brian Breesy. He's 6'6". I didn't realize he was that tall. 6'6", 298. Played for 3 years. Had 26 games in those 3 years. 9 sacks. 20 tackles for losses. 13% on his pressure rating. Ooh, 15% on those missed tackles. A little higher. And then 50 total tackles.
So it just so happens this morning, for whatever reason, when I woke up, the algorithm decided that it was going to show me Brian Breesy high school highlight tape,
Really?
and
Where's he from?
I
Or
don't actually know. I think it might even be South Carolina. I can't remember right now, but it is like literal man against boys type stuff, like where he's just like slinging people. Like it
yeah.
was like it looked like an SNL skit. That's how bad it was.
Yeah. Just like if your coach in high school was going up against you, like
Yeah, yeah.
man against kids.
It was actually funny to watch. I mean, I was like, oh wow, Brian Breesy was a man in high school. He was a man in college too.
Yeah.
So I wanted to point this out. The missed tackle rate, 15%. That is high. I can look at that one of two ways. Because you want to know who else has a pretty high missed tackle rate? Aaron
On the
Donald.
back. Oh, really?
And that's because sometimes those D linemen, they get in the backfield so quick and create instant pressure that they're a little
That
bit out of control almost because it just happens so quick, and they kind of have a guy and they may
and
not
then they
make the
get
tackle,
someone else
but
to
someone
fill
else
in.
cleans it up and you still
Yeah.
get the TFL because they're so disruptive. So to me, the missed tackle rate can be indicative of, are they just making a lot of plays even though they're missing the tackle? And if you
Yeah.
watch Brian Breesy's film, he does have some of those. So I'm not as worried about that missed tackle rate,
Yeah.
even if it is a little bit alarmingly high.
Yeah. I mean,
There's something to that
I
he's
could piggyback saying like he's not making the tackles in open space like what you were just saying. It's more
yeah,
behind the pocket in a way, and someone else is gonna get there and fill.
yeah, and there's actually a play on here. It's not a TFL, it's a sack that he actually misses the initial tackle. but he keeps playing and creates the play. So it's like
Uh-huh.
I think there's something to be said for, especially as a D lineman, like your missed tackle percentage can also not only be indicative of like, oh, you missed some tackles, but it's also saying you're in position to make a lot of plays in the backfield and you're disruptive. And so sometimes that's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, we want to make every tackle, but just throwing that out there as a thought that I had when I was looking at that, because his pressure rate is also really high for a D
Yeah,
lineman.
that's true.
So his strength, I mean, number one, his pass rush. He's like an elite pass rusher for an interior D lineman. When you watch his film, it tracks he has 9 sacks because Clemson was really creative with the games they ran for him, and he was also able to win in one-on-one situations when they didn't run a game. So here you go. Here's some pass rush situations. This is against Wake Forest. See how they run this little game, and he's just patient, moves the pocket, gets up and underneath, sack. Look at all the
Yeah.
juice afterwards. Like, he's against Syracuse. This is the one I was talking about. He
Yeah.
misses the initial sack,
And then
but you
pushes him
know,
out.
so and he doesn't get the sack. I think someone else technically pushed him out, right? So he doesn't get a sack right there. All he's credited with is a missed
The
tackle.
pressure. Yeah.
But look at he makes that play. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not as worried about that. Like I'm not downgrading him on that one. Again, here he is, loops back outside, gets the pressure, forces the throwaway. Like I said, this is like high level pass rush stuff. I'm gonna let it
Yeah.
play again, just because. Again, loops back over the top in the middle of the pocket. Boom. Now against Syracuse, you're gonna see him in a one-on-one situation. Beats the center, gets there and doesn't quite make the tackle, but they get the sack. I mean, hugely disruptive. And then again, they're gonna run another game, but this time he's gonna loop back outside and be patient with it, time it just right, explode once he sees open air, gets to the Georgia Tech quarterback, forces the throwaway.
Yeah,
These are
those
things that
last
we
2, I
love
had
to
written
see.
down that he had good pursuit. Like, you could just see it there. He's following the ball. The QB scrambling out of bounds, he's still chasing after him. And the last one, you could see he's still swarming, after having going around everyone. So, I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
Joe, it's like you read my mind, dude. Because my next strength, he has this infectious attitude. What I mean by that is like when you watch him, it shows up that he plays like he has something to prove on every snap. He has like endless motor, right? And an attitude that shows up during and after the play.
Yeah, we've
And
seen
by
that a little bit
after,
too.
I'm not saying he's like hitting dudes late. He's not doing anything that's hurting you. But what I'm saying is like you see the passion and love of football. I've explained numerous times with guys like Devin Witherspoon or Bijan Robinson or Paris Johnson. Like there are reasons why I love guys like that because I think they're culture setters. I think
Energy, yeah.
those are the players that give your team life, and that's who Brian Bresee is to me. He has the talent to boast that culture setting attitude. I love it. We're just going to watch some film of a couple plays where he's going to make plays and he's going to let you know that he made the play too. Here he is again against Syracuse. Had a big game against Syracuse this year. Zone read, they're reading off of him. He's just going to go tackle everyone and then like juice it up for everybody afterwards.
Yeah,
It's
hit
on a
the
big third
sideline,
down.
get some love.
Actually, this is a big fourth down. And he just goes and makes the play and walks it off, letting everyone know. Like, I love the juice he plays with, dude. Here he is again against, who's this? Boston College.
Oh, this is a touchdown, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. This is the sack, fumble, touchdown, Chalupa. That's a Chalupa right there. And he's high stepping to let everyone know. He is against, oh, that's it. Sorry. I gave you a little tease at the end there. So, again, I love the way he plays with that attitude. He's just it's infectious. He has endless motor. He like you said, he's always relentless in his pursuit. If you know anything about his story too, I think there's another reason why he plays this way. He plays for something more than just him. There's a whole deal this year. He had a little sister who passed away, unfortunately, and he plays for her, and he talked about it a lot on a college game day segment. But I think he's inspired. I think he plays that way. I think it's very obvious, and I love a dude who's got something to prove
Yeah.
because you just can't The guys who play like that,
They
you
just
don't have
don't
to coach
suck.
them hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You let them go be culture setters, tone setters for your team. And the last thing that I saw for him that was big time strength, his lower body strength. You know, he when he plays with low pad level, he has this awesome lower body strength and an ability to anchor a gap, especially for a guy who's 6'6". You know, you take on double teams, get around the bend and pass rush, and you gotta have strong legs to be 6'6" and be doing all those things. So here he is against Georgia Tech in the Chick-fil-A kickoff this year. Kind of anchoring down, playing with low pad level, taking on a double, making a tackle for loss, and getting up and letting you know that's what he did.
Yeah.
Nasty.
You see he's got some good eyes just reading the backfield right there.
Yeah. Here he is against Georgia a couple years ago in their bowl game. This was him as a freshman, and he's making plays. Just strong, right? He's just so strong. Lower body strength, getting himself in there. TFL. Here he's against who is this? I can't remember off the top of my head, but again, taking on
Georgia Tech
double,
or something?
across the face. Yeah, Georgia Tech. I'm sorry, getting across the face in the double team against zone. Again, making a play in the backfield. So all those things. He's just a really good player. Like I said, I think he's a tone setter, building block type of player for a defense. I think he's a day one starter, high ceiling in what he can become as a talent, as a playmaker, and a leader for whatever organization drafts him. Um, I do not have questions about who he is as a person and a football player. I feel pretty confident just outside looking in that
Yeah.
he's gonna be really good. My current pro comparison for him, DeForest Buckner, another guy who's really tall. Sorry, Joe. This happens to be another highlight against the Broncos. There
Hey,
have been a lot of them the last couple
all
of
I gotta
years.
say is what game was this, bro? They what was it,
This
like
was
7-7, bro?
Yeah,
Like
this was Thursday
total of
night
9
football.
something?
Yeah, this
What a
was that
day.
like 12-9 game or whatever it was, 9 to
Yeah.
6 overtime. DeForest Buckner dominated this game. If you watched it live, you probably remember how dominant he was in this game. So here's a few clips of him just dominating from the interior D line. Just pass rush, that long 6'6" looking dude, ability to rush the passer as a longer player from the interior, wreaking havoc, causes the sack fumble. Here he is again inside. Again, just like making plays, like he's pushes the pocket from the interior, hits the
Oh, yeah.
gritty afterwards, lets you know, right? Very similar attitude and infectious personality, culture leader for an organization. I think, you know, all those things DeForest Buckner is, I like Brian Breesy to be. So, um, you have a sick game for him stat line wise.
Yeah, so it was them losing to Tennessee 31-14. I guess it wasn't anything too special. It was 2 tackles, 1 sack. Both of those were solo tackles. I could get you his combine numbers if you're interested in those, though.
Oh, I am interested in seeing how this 6'6", 300-pounder fared.
Yeah, so he ran a 4.86 on the 40, a 1.71 for the 10 yards. He had a 29-inch vertical and a 22 on the bench.
Yeah. The 22 on a bench, I would have expected more, to be quite frank
Uh-huh.
with you, but I did highlight his lower body strength, not his upper
Yeah,
body
yeah.
strength. So
That
I
is
mean
true.
that it does kind of track. I mean, he's not quite like as explosive an athlete as Jalen Carter or Kalijah Cansey,
Yeah.
but I do like all the things that he does for you. I just think he's very disruptive. He's a great pass rusher, and I just love the juice he plays with. So right now, first round pick based on everything you see, somewhere between 9 and 30. A lot of people have him going around 15. You know, right in the middle of the first round.
Uh-huh.
Some common names: Saints, Seahawks, Eagles, Steelers.
I
Now,
like the
Steelers would
Steelers
be,
play coming in too, though. They
dude.
could use that
That
help
would be
with
interesting.
TJ. That would be
Cam
some good help.
Hayward, who's getting a little longer in the tooth. TJ Watt and Brian Breesy. Could you imagine how disruptive that front would be? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that would be insane. And then
That'd be the
they would have their
definition of
built-in,
PWC.
yeah, dude, seriously. I mean, and then you have your built-in Cam Hayward replacement when that guy retires in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like that. I'm not gonna lie. I would not mind seeing him in a Steelers uniform from that perspective. Again, we've talked about how crazy the Eagles defense could get if you drafted the right guys.
Yeah.
I mean, him with Jordan Davis, yeah. And we already talked about Saints, Seahawks. I mean, all these teams make sense, all of them.
Yeah.
I could see him with
No,
any
for
of these
sure.
teams. Anybody not on the list, maybe Joe, that you're thinking about?
Ooh, not on the list. Let's go. Honestly, I'm gonna say this. Not the team I would pick, but I've been wanting to say Dolphins every single time just because we haven't talked about them because they don't have a pick.
They don't have that
Yeah,
pick, yeah.
yeah.
It's tough.
So
I mean,
like,
the Dolphins and the 49ers have just kind of been like left out of everything we
yeah,
talked about. And the Browns for that matter, just
yeah.
because none of them are in this position to go get a top prospect. I mean, the Rams have been mentioned like once or twice.
But that's people slipping down, being
Yeah,
later
I mean,
prospects.
and that's because they have picked 36, so they're like a
Yeah,
little bit. But yeah, the Browns, the 49ers, and the Dolphins are definitely feel left out of a lot of these conversations
yeah.
because they do not have first round picks. So yes, I'm with you. I know they can't get up there, but that would maybe.
I guess mine would be the Jets. That feels like a solid spot.
I
I
mean,
think we mentioned them before on one of the dudes.
yeah.
And
Well,
so
I mean, we talked about Quinn and Williams, so
yeah,
that's
yeah.
probably yeah. All right, who's next?
The last guy we're taking a look at today is Byron Young out of Alabama. He's 6'3", 292. Played for 4 years there. He's got 45 total games, 7.5 sacks, 20 tackles for loss. Ooh, they couldn't track these stats on him, huh? So
Yeah, I don't
no
know.
pressure rating or missed tackles percent that we know
Yeah,
of from who do you use?
33rd team. Yeah.
13. And then he's got 130 total tackles during the
Okay.
4 years.
So Byron Young, not to be confused with the edge rusher from Tennessee, who we already evaluated
Uh-huh.
earlier in the
Yeah, yeah.
in the year here. Is a seasoned player at Alabama. Was there, 3-4 years. Played a lot of games. I mean, 45 games for a college career is a lot.
Yeah,
You
it's a
know,
lot of film.
um, and he's a good player. He's a really good player. I don't think he's the caliber of any of the other four guys we just talked about. I think he's kind of like best of the rest. I
Uh-huh.
think it's those top four, and then it's everyone else. I mean, you can see if you look at his current projection, I've seen him anywhere from rounds 3 to 5. Like I've literally seen him as late as the 5th round. I think
Dang.
I even saw one that was the 6th round. Um, I don't think he'll end up being that far, but like I even saw one that said 6th round for him. So from that standpoint, you could not see the 5th D lineman drafted for quite some time in this draft. But I do like him. I think he's a good player. I do. I mean, a guy who comes out of Alabama, plays that long for Nick Saban, has that many games under his belt. I think he's ready to come in and play and be an important contributor to a good defensive
Yeah.
line. So few things that stood out watching him and why he's my best of the rest is number one, he's versatile. He's one of the more movable defensive linemen in this draft. He showed the ability to play everything from a 2-eye to a 2 to a 3 to a 4-eye to a 4 and even a 5 on film at Alabama. That lets him fit well in any kind of scheme, right?
Yeah.
So here you go.
Head up.
Good bit of film. This is him as a 2 technique, right, against Tennessee. He's going to get all the way across face and make this play. That's pretty impressive. Here he is right now. Now he's a 4 technique, head up on the tackle. Okay, he's going to pass rush and get to the quarterback against LSU. Now here he is as a like a 2-eye, right? Inside shade of the guard. Maybe even more of a 2. I mean, it kind of depends on how you're looking at it, but now he's playing over the center. Again, gets in the backfield, makes this shoestring tackle on Corral. See it again. Boom. Beats up center over the top of his face. Great tackle on Corral. Now this is him as a 5 technique, rushing the edge and getting to the quarterback, getting to the Mississippi State quarterback. So like clearly he can do a lot, right?
Yeah.
He's very versatile. Alabama used him in a lot of different ways. Again, anything from a 2-eye to a 5. So you saw him play everything in between just on that set of film right there. So I do think that's something that is very valuable, especially a guy you're going to draft later where you're like, okay, we can slot him anywhere on our defense. That's huge. And that's a reason to draft him over another guy who you think is just a 3 technique. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, put him wherever you want.
The next thing I noticed, instinctual first step. and that's probably because he played 45 games. Like he's seen a
Mhm.
lot of football for being a college player. I think he displayed great first step on film. Seemed to always kind of put him in position to make plays. He was able to beat a lot of zone blockers to the spot because he has these great instincts and pretty decent get off. Here he is as a 2 technique against Tennessee. And just watch his first step. Like, watch this instinctual first step. Boom. Makes the play because he just beats it. He just gets there before the running back can. Let's see it again. Gets to a cross face, beats the back. Great play. This is him right here. Again, great first step. 2-step strike. 6-inch strike, lock out. Really good play. There he is. Boom. Even gets chipped by the ISO player, the fullback, and still makes the play. So the last thing, and it actually even showed up on that last little clip right there, I think he has really good balance. So a lot like running backs, we talked about this before, you want to have a defensive lineman that has really good balance because they can maintain their angles and gaps against blockers. So even when they're taking contact, they're able to stay on their feet and continue moving through their gap. That's a lot like a running back, right?
Yeah.
And so that was something that I
Shuffle,
talked
go over
about
the
with a
top.
couple of backs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Byron Young, I actually think, has really good balance. You see that. You saw that kind of on that last clip, but you see it again here. Here he is sifting through blockers against Texas this year, getting to the running back. I'm going to see it again and run it back here. See him sifting through, being able to take a lot of contact and still make the play. Same thing here. Takes contact, gets chipped a little bit, still comes in and makes the tackle. So I just think he has really good balance, really good versatility, instinctual first step. I think he can play anywhere on your D line. I mean, I think he's initially probably a 3 technique who can play. If you're in a 3-man front, he can play kind of in that 4 technique. But if you're in a 4-man front, he can play in that 3 technique. Long-term
Mhm.
ability to be, a quality starter at the position. I think his versatility allows him to fit in any position with the team who drafts him and be, like I said, an important contributor to a good D line. Was he at the combine this year, Joe?
Yeah, he had some numbers for sure.
Yeah. How do you do?
He did pretty well.
Oh,
So
I like that. He did pretty well.
yeah, so his 40 time was a 4.43. He had a 1.62 on the 10 yards.
Are you sure this is him and not the
I
Byron Young
I'm,
from Tennessee?
I mean, I'm pretty sure. Let me double check.
No way. He ran 4.43.
Hey, bro, hey.
Nah, that's not him because
Don't judge a stat man if he's wrong right now.
no, because I'm telling you, because the other dude, Kalijah Cansey, ran 4.67, and that was the fastest 40 time of any D lineman since 03. So there's no
Um,
way. This is Byron Young. You give me stats for Byron Young from Tennessee. Come on, bro.
well, let me see. Hey, this thing. Hey,
I
hey,
was,
you
I was
ain't
gonna say
wrong, bro.
that's hilarious.
Hey,
But
that's
this
why he did
Byron
really
Young thing
well.
is
Maybe that. Hey,
this,
see this now you know my rankings when we get there are to be really skewed because everyone's looking at the wrong
this
numbers.
this Byron Young thing is real confusing, bro. Having 2 Byron Youngs that are both defensive linemen essentially in the same draft is
Yeah.
both out of the SEC is not fair. It's not cool. So
All right. Well,
I'm not even
maybe
mad at you.
he didn't even go. Let
I'm
me. Let
not
me.
sure if he was at the combine. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah. I'm.
I don't know if he got the invite. So I don't know.
I'm gonna
Um,
go on a limb and say he wasn't, but I'm gonna keep looking as we. You know.
well, my next question would be: is there any games that stood out statistically for him in your
Yeah.
research and analysis?
Let's see. My game was against Ole Miss that we were taking a couple plays to look at. He had
Yeah.
11 total tackles. 6 of
Oh,
those were
that's a great
solo.
game.
6 solos, 2 were sacks, and a pass deflect.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a really good game for a defensive lineman. So, I mean, he's shown the ability to dominate a game. I mean, that's the thing. All this is projection and conjecture. But so here's a guy that I really like for the Rams that I kind of compare him to. Kind of a lesser known guy. His name is Marquise Copeland. He's going into his 4th year out of Cincinnati. He was originally undrafted, but has earned a little bit more time every year with the Rams. This is actually him during their Super Bowl year against the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. So you see him here. He's in that because the Rams are in that 4-man or the 3-man front, right? So he's playing in that 4-eye inside shade of the tackle. Again, very similar to where I think like a guy like Byron Young could slot in, right? So you'll see him really great first step, very versatile, has been able to play in a few different spots for the Rams. So here he is against the Niners. Great first step. See how he cuts off the zone, the path of the running back and forces it back? Yeah. And let it one more time, but you just, boom, takes that strike. Yeah. I think he's had a similar career path to what I think Byron Young could have, which is just earning more time every year, being an important rotational piece, and eventually being a starter on a pretty good D-line. From a projection standpoint, like I said, I've seen him going anywhere from rounds 3 to even as low as round 6. I think he's somewhere probably around 3 to 5. Hey, the Browns and Dolphins show up as teams.
Yeah. That's when we flip the screen. I was like, hey, they're finally here to talk.
There they are.
They're in the
Bears.
Draft. Don't forget
The
about
Bears are another team I saw, and then the Packers, another team that had some interest. So, I know you like the Dolphins, Joe. Any of the other teams stand out for you?
I like the Packers in this one. Good to
Yeah.
see them pop up.
Not quite BJ Raji, but
yeah, no, that's for sure. And then also I found his numbers. He actually
Okay.
didn't run the 40. So
Okay, got it.
he had a 26-inch vert, 9 foot on the broad jump, a 7.68 on the 3 cone,
Okay.
and 24 on the bench.
Got it. Okay. So like all that stuff's pretty average, or
Yeah.
even so he's like a pretty average athlete, which is what you see on film. That's not what impressed me when I watched his film. And that's why, like I said, he's kind of a distant fifth to these other 4 guys who I think are better athletes. But his experience in playing for Saban, being versatile, I think he has value. So I do think he can be a good player, and that's why he was my 5th best guy. You know, because this D tackle group is also thin. So
while we're here, I want to make a quick note. That picture we have of him compared to this one from the combine, completely different guy.
Really?
Like like over here, he's happy, he's smiling, having a good time at school, and over here, he's like just rolled out of bed, ready to go do some drills. He's just like so like over here, he's like, and over here, he's just like, like one of them is like the school picture, and the other one's like the DMV photo. Where you're like, oh, hurry up, take this over with. That's how I described it too.
Yeah. All right, rankings.
I'll
go first this time.
All right, sounds good. You can laugh at my rankings later.
Okay. So I really struggled. This is the first time that I seriously struggled with rankings. I mean, I've had a couple where I've kind of gone back and forth, been like, I don't know. But this is the first time where like my number one was not clear to me. If I just talked about talent and an athlete, Jalen Carter is probably the best player in the whole draft. But I'm concerned. I do have some questions about whether or not I think he's the first guy that we've come across that is a bona fide top 10 talent that everyone loves, that I have real concerns about whether or not he's going to be a great NFL player.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And it has nothing to do with his talent. So for that reason, I love Brian Bresee. I think that came through when I talked about him.
Yeah.
I have him as my number one because I'm very sure that he's going to get better every year, that he's going to be a tone setter for whoever drafts him. So I'm just so sure about that. And I think he's not quite as athletically gifted as Jalen Carter, but I did see enough disruption on film from him and all the things that he can do for you as a pass rusher that I felt comfortable putting him number one ahead of Jalen Carter, even though I know Jalen Carter is a greater talent.
Yeah.
Just as a prospect, I like Brian Bresee better. People can disagree with me, and I wouldn't tell you you're wrong. This is just where I'm at with it right now. Yeah, this is just if I was drafting and I was looking at these guys, I think I'd be more willing to draft Brian Bresee before I would be willing to draft Jalen Carter right now. That's how I feel.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Jalen Carter, incredible talent. I don't think I need to say much, so that's why he's at 2. At 3, I have Kalijah Kancey. He's undersized, but man, is that dude quick and great with his hands. Like, he's so developed that it makes up for his size, and I think that's what's gonna be appealing, and that's why he's
Oh,
probably gonna get drafted in the first round. Um, Beyond those 3, I love Mazi Smith, Michigan man. His size with his lateral quickness is a great combo to be someone who's a plugger in the run game, being able to beat blocks, being disruptive, but then also giving a little bit of value as a pass rusher, pushing the pocket from the middle. I think he's a true one technique. Don't think he has a lot of versatility along the front, but with what he does, I think he's going to do it well, and I think a team will get a pretty good player there. Um, After that, there's a true drop off. I do like Byron Young though as the best of the rest. I think I hope that doesn't come off disrespectful to him because he's a really
uh-huh.
good player. 45 games at Alabama. I mean, you don't do that without being a really good football player and Nick Saban really liking you. So I think there's a lot to be said for his versatility, his experience, his ability to play anywhere right away. So I really like him. Um, I just don't think he has the top end talent and athleticism that those other 4 guys have, and that's really what it is.
Makes sense, yeah.
And then outside of those guys, I like Keanu Benton from Wisconsin, Tuli Tuipulotu from USC, and Siaka Ika from Baylor are all other guys who I think could be drafted somewhere in that same vicinity as Byron Young, rounds 3 through 5. Um, Man, it was tough to list some other guys after that. Like, that's D
This is
line
all
is
you
thin
got
in
for
this.
the D line?
Yeah, D line is thin in this draft, man. It's a thin D line draft. There's just not. It's just not a lot of names. Period to choose from, and then from the names that you do have, I just think it's pretty top heavy, and after that, it thins out really quick.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if like a guy like Mozzie Smith, who would normally be a second rounder, maybe he does slip into the end of round 1 just because teams know, man, if I don't get him, it's
Who's
slim
there to get?
pickings for a while.
Yeah.
So I could see there being that long gap between Mozzie Smith and Byron Young in terms of players drafted, unless another team just really loves the schematic fit of one of these other guys, Keanu Benton, um, Tuli from USC or Ika from Baylor. I mean, maybe another team's scheme fit loves one of those guys, and that's why they draft him in, late round 2. But I can't see him being drafted too high. So I wouldn't be shocked if Mozzie Smith gets taken right at the end of round 1, beginning of round 2, and we don't see another D lineman go until the middle of round 3. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I get that, yeah.
Just because there are other positions too that are so deep in this draft, receiver, corner, tight
They're
end.
always a need, you know?
Yeah. So well, that's my take on the position group, and I'm kind of excited to see what you say because I know we had different rankings. Now I also know you're probably about to qualify why your rankings are the way they are, so I'll let you
Yeah.
take it away.
Alright, well, first off, I looked at the wrong numbers for Byron Young, but, like, I mean, I won't stray away from the fact that it's ranked this way. I'll keep rolling with it. I mean, I like his versatility. You talked about it. You play him anywhere between the tackle, you know? That was one thing I definitely liked. I
A man
mean,
of conviction. I like it.
yeah.
I like your stick to itiveness.
Let's see, the Mozzie Smith, I liked him. I think that's who I thought BJ Raji was. I think that's the guy that came to me
Got
for
it.
him.
Got it.
And I don't know, I feel like he did a lot of things well. He was good with the swim move, right? Very well getting the pressure on the QB. He had the quick first step, get off the ball.
Mhm.
And the last thing for what I wrote down was he doesn't give up on a play. Like he's gonna keep
Mhm.
flowing to the ball. That's one thing that's like it's one of those things like you can't coach. Like
Yeah.
if they're gonna keep doing that, like they have a good motor as you talked about for some of the
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter, I think that kind of ties in with the off field stuff. Like granted, he's a good player. Don't know where his head's at, you know.
Yeah.
Kalijah Kancey, you kind of sold me on him, if I'm being honest. Like
Yeah.
if I were to rework this right now, he would definitely slide up like at least a spot because of Byron Young, but
Okay.
maybe another one. I don't know between the other two. But for me, I think for me it was just I don't know how when I was watching him, I didn't know if he was really doing much, besides just like creating pressure. I mean, he obviously was making plays for Pitt, but I don't know. I didn't know what I was looking at the first time when I was like, keep him a little lower. And then
Yeah.
Brian Breesy, I just thought he was slow, not as versatile as some of the other dudes. You could play him wherever, you know what I mean? And I mean, the way you talked about him, though, like it makes sense. For me, I didn't think he was that top notch. Well, and when you're looking at these Byron Young numbers from Tennessee, you know, it's hard to compete with that guy.
Yeah.
So
Makes
yeah,
sense.
I mean, everyone's probably going up a spot except for maybe Breezy. I still don't know. He was a big question mark for me.
Fair. I mean, I disagree with you vehemently, but
Yeah,
I
that's for
fair
sure.
enough. I told you, I was like, man, I don't know what Joe is doing over there. Like these D line rankings are crazy. This is the first time that I've ever looked at a ranking from you. We disagreed a little bit on linebackers, but like this is the
Yeah,
first time where we had our rankings like
it was all
completely
out of
flipped.
the
I was
border.
like, this
Yeah,
guy's nuts right now. I don't know what he's looking at. So it
yeah,
made
no,
sense though once you kind of gave me the combine numbers. I was like, I see what happened. So,
yeah,
um, but yeah, man, this is a good day's work in terms of looking at these draft prospects. I'm excited for it. It's right around the corner, dude. We only have basically 3 more weeks.
yeah.
Um,
And
we're
April.
as it stands, today's the 5th. So draft starts on the 27th.
Yeah,
So we
coming
only got
quick. That's for sure.
22 days, 3 weeks basically. But in terms of taking us out today, Joe, it's your turn for banger of the week.
Yeah, you know, y'all
Um,
see me fumble on the last one, but I came back prepared.
I saved you.
Yeah, yeah. You came in with the quick assist. Came in. Yeah, Ray, our guy. No,
Yeah.
but for me, I'm gonna do another country music song. I'm rolling with. Let me make sure I don't mess up the name of the song. I'm going with "See Me Now" by Luke Combs. It's a little bit slower. It's
Okay.
it's kind of like someone you had in your life no longer there. Wish they
Okay.
could see what you're doing.
Oh,
So
I can. Okay. Everyone can kind of relate to that, so that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. So that's what I'm rolling with today for the banger. Sorry, I fumbled the last one, but luckily Trev picked it up for me.
No, it's good, bro. I think it was a great pod, great couple episodes back to back.
And
Um,
good couple hours.
3 hours to try. For the people who are just listening, I mean, we do put real work into this, which is not to toot our own horn or anything, but like Joe does I call him the producer extraordinaire for a reason. Like, guy crushes it every time, puts in a lot more hours than me because like my hours are all the prep and then actually doing it, but like he's
Yeah,
doing all the like, hey, he's prepping and he's recording and then he's also editing, and so I hope people who listen appreciate the work he's putting in, because it can be time consuming. I mean, if you want to do this stuff right, that's what it takes, and I think we're really trying to do it right. So
yeah. We're just
um,
trying to perfect our craft right now. We're working on things.
perfecting the craft, baby. Um, but yeah, dude, I think we're getting closer, and I'm excited. I'm excited when
Yeah,
we'll
it's gonna be a
finally be
fun
through the
couple
draft.
weeks.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, I guess we'll send it to our guy. Take us
Ray
out.
Ray.